This is an interesting story. Did you see this? Murdoch family in a court battle. Who will lead News Corp and Fox?
This is wild. What do you think of this?
Oh, I know a lot about it. Let me just go through it for people. Currently, the family trust gives each of Rupert Murdoch's four children, equal votes. He has two others, but they have ownership but not votes. He wants to change that. He made this when he divorced from his wife, Anna. She insisted on this. Rupert has filed a petition to amend the trust. It's an irrevocable trust, but that's what he's done, to give exclusive control to his oldest son, Lachlan. As reasoning, he cites political differences with his other children that could impact editorial stance of his companies. Three other children have responded with a legal challenge. The trial is expected to begin in September. It's in Nevada where this is, so it's one person who deals with trusts and estates. There's one tiny little out that he's saying he's doing it for the benefit of these people, and he's doing it for political reasons. That's not the benefit of shareholders or anything else. To let Lachlan, who's presided over disaster after disaster at the company, including the lawsuits and behaviors and payoffs and everything else. I mean, Lachlan has been a terrible CEO in that regard. I don't think this helps shareholders. What's interesting, I have a little knowledge of these people. They were not together, James, Liz, and I think it's Prudence. They were not aligned at all. Liz moved back and forth like Shiv on Succession. She's very much wanting her dad and her to get along. So this united them, which was, of course, another stupid thing Lachlan does because he's as dumb as a box of hammers. So it's really interesting. This is a family that has huge impact on our society. And he's trying to live beyond the grave. This old, crusty old Dracula is trying to live beyond the grave. What do you think?
There are a few companies. I have a difficult time thinking of a for-profit company who has a greater impact relative to its market capitalization. I mean, I think the market cap of, I forget what the market cap is, but it's essentially, you have, it's $33 billion, which is, Warner's 20, which is unfair because it has $40 billion in debt, so it's $60 billion in enterprise value. But it's $33 billion, which is, big, but this is arguably, you could definitely make an argument this is one of the 5 or 10 most influential companies in the world. And a lot of people think that this company literally picks the Republican nominee for president and has a huge influence. And Fox's viewership is really strong. I mean, he's actually, I don't think it's fair to say Lachlan's done a terrible job. I think the Dominion case was obviously a huge stub toe, but I think that's more about the fact that, I think it's unfair to say he's done a bad job. What I took from this entire story... Oh,
come on. The two cases, there's Smartmatic coming, Bill O'Reilly and other gropers at that company. But go ahead.
Let me say the HR has not been very good here, but the company is as influential as it has ever been. And the Wall Street Journal is amazing. Up for debate whether you think he's done a good job or not. What I took from this had nothing to do with business, nothing. And that is, I'm turning 50, and my sole objective right now, all the money I'm spending, almost my biggest thing right now, my kids are about to be 14 and 17. I'm buying homes in beautiful places. I'm thinking about where we're going to live and making huge investments in my kids because all I want, first and foremost, is I want to spend a ton of time with my boys when they're older. And this is a man who, by any stretch of the imagination, whether you think he's Satan's devil or whatever, has had a remarkably successful career in terms of influence and impact. And when he's getting married, 3 of his 4 kids didn't show up.
I know.
Which in my view means you have failed.
Yeah.
And I also reverse engineer to another thing, tax policy. I think we dramatically need to increase tax rates above, say, $10 million a year or on trusts. Because I'm telling you, Kara, creating dynasties, it doesn't do anyone any good. Do you think this has been good for their family?
No, and I think it's succession. We've got succession here, and he'll, if he dies before this thing gets to trial, it stays the same, and then we'll see what happens to this company. Because the other 3, I wouldn't call them united, but now they are. Now they're like, screw you, Dad. Like it is pathetic. It's pathetic.
They're against their dad and their dad's. This is like the second thing. I'm just behind wanting to spend a lot of time with my boys. You know what I really hope? I really hope that my boys are friends when they're older. And sometimes with the way they go at it, I think that's not a given. Can you imagine this? A family where 3 of the siblings have side. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was tense between Lachlan and the rest of them.
Because of business.
Liz was between. Prudence is out in Australia, does her own thing. But it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to do at this moment in time, because he's going to, let me just tell you, Rupert Murdoch, you're going to die. Like, for Moonstruck, no matter what you do, Rupert Murdoch, you're going to die. And you don't get to decide things after you're dead. That's it. And he's ruining the rest of his thing just because he has this. Some people think that Lachlan is unduly influencing him. He is 90-some years old. That's one of the little things, that Lachlan's engineering this.
Well, how you could make the same argument on the other 3.
No, they didn't start this thing. This has been in place for decades. They didn't move to change it. This Rupert did.
A little bit of background. An irrevocable trust is basically a tax shelter. And this is what I'm getting at. Dynasties, as far as I can tell, don't do anyone any good. They remove tax dollars from the Commonwealth. Your kids end up fighting each other and not showing up at their father's wedding. And dynastic wealth and tax policies that lead to dynasties used to be something that we weren't down with. We used to have very high inheritance taxes, and now we have raised the minimums from $5 million per person to $11 million. And here's the thing, and this is where I'm going, and I'm becoming Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Giving your kids financial security, fine. No, okay, but if they each get $25 million, not necessarily bill, anything you give your kids above 10 or 20 million, it doesn't make them any happier. And at some point, when you have this dynasty that has all this political influence and impact on the world, it ends up separating families and dividing them.
That could be. But I'm saying this thing was in place for decades. He agreed to it. This is what it is. And now he's having buyer's remorse. It's all Rupert or Lachlan generated. This is not those other kids doing this.
But this is what you have to do. To put something in something that transfers to your kids tax-free is called a trust. But the thing about the trust is it has to be irrevocable. Now, that term irrevocable is really important. It means that the construct and the agreements within the trust have to hold. You don't get to then decide to change it. And what he's claiming is, no, I want the irrevocable trust to be revocable. And there's a loophole. And the loophole is the following. If you can prove you're making decisions that help them economically, right? But he's basically going to try and say that my endorsement of someone who has a different political complexion than the other 3 will help them economically. And I would think legally the other 3 would be able to swat that down or just delay, just take a note, page out of the Trump lawyer handbook and just keep delaying this case because his expiration date is about 10 years past due.
Oh no, his mother lived to way past 100. I forgot. She was riding around in a golf cart. Who knows? In any case, it's sad and pathetic, and he's going right down the Sumner Redstone Avenue as they all. I thought maybe they would avoid this, but I don't know.